Hello and welcome to the Trade and Prosper Academy. My name is Sara Oblak Speicher and I am thrilled to be teaming up with the amazing experts at Team and Prosper to bring you a series of workshops, webinars to help you expand your mind and help elevate your business. On our first webinar, we were talking about how to trade fear for expansion so that you can thrive no matter what. Today, we're taking it a step forward. We're going to be talking about how to stop spinning your wheels and instead take your power back without feeling distracted or exhausted. To continue, I will turn off my camera so that we can focus. And I look forward to serving you over the next 30 minutes or so. I invite you to take any notes, to pause anytime that you need. And then also I invite you to join the Trade and Prosper community on Facebook and on LinkedIn to continue this conversation, to ask any questions, and to receive customized feedback. So welcome back to those who are returning. Welcome to anyone who is new with us here. Today we are here because many of us have been shouldering the weight of responsibilities toward our businesses, clients, even shareholders, carrying in the accountability for ourselves and for our businesses, feeling the mounting pressure to uphold extremely high expectations we have set for ourselves. Not to mention the unique challenges we're facing from fulfilling the demands as caretakers at home, while putting our strategies in place to keep our businesses healthy through pivoting, innovation, trial and error, and so on and so on. Many of us are braving through anxiety, even emotional pain, and perhaps feeling this inability to keep our businesses healthy, to provide for our families, and are experiencing this inner conflict between upholding responsibilities towards our companies and also possibly ruining the lives of those who are really close to us, let's say, to those of us who had to let our team members go at no fault of our own. Then this working double time for those of us who are stretching ourselves thin because we're so charged with creativity, filled with new ideas, fueled by the desire to seize all the new possibilities at the speed of light. We might be even triggered by the fear to not repeat the mistakes from the past, or to really feel called to serve at the highest level. And, if you're like me, then this comes at a cost. We forget to take care of ourselves. We forget to take rest. And we all know what happens when we try to fill other people's cups when ours is empty. Last but not least, many of us are also experiencing guilt and shame, perhaps compassion fatigue, because in this global pandemic, looking around, our businesses might be thriving. We might not be experiencing the hardships that so many others are experiencing. And we want to push ourselves even harder to give back even more because we do feel that we are privileged. So these are just a couple of examples of what we might be experiencing. And my intention for today is to really give you growth strategies, expansion mindset, and practical tools so that you can come away from this presentation knowing how to unleash your potential, clarify what you want, and how does it get to look like for you. How to elevate your perspective and consciousness to increase increase the probability for your success. How to identify and eliminate your perceived limitations and self-sabotage. How to take aligned action without procrastination and overwhelm. And last but not least, how to embody and integrate the new strategies, plans, and habits. So if we are just meeting right now, hi, my name is Sara. And if we have met before, hello, it's great to have you here. I'm a mom to two little ones, a wife, avid traveler. Currently, my family and I live here in beautiful Lower Hudson Valley, but I grew up in Slovenia in a family of makers and crafters, and entrepreneurship runs in my veins. As I mentioned to you before, my dad ran a bakery, had a small team of employees, and I got to witness all the ups and downs and go-arounds through different turmoils and setbacks. My mom has been in business for herself also for over 20 years. My grandmother, as a seamstress, had her own shop. And even generations back, during the Second World War, my ancestors were entrepreneurs as well. So I know really well what it means to find yourself in a space where you have to consistently evolve and innovate and pivot and reinvent yourself. And I have done it for myself also. Now, for nearly a decade, however, I have been helping remarkable leaders, creators, experts, founders, CEOs, and their teams worldwide who are called to think, dream, and play bigger, to inspire intentional living, business leadership, and impact, no matter the circumstances. I personally prefer to play into limitless possibilities by harnessing the power of integrating expansion mindset, simplified strategies, and radical transformation. And some of the frameworks and principles behind that, I will be sharing with you today. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with unleashing your unlimited potential. So, by definition, the word overwhelm means to upset, to overthrow, to completely cover, and to overpower in thought or feeling. Exhaustion is defined as a state of extreme personal, of extreme physical, actually not personal, and mental fatigue. The action of state of using something up or being used completely. Sounds familiar? Yeah, right now, it's how most of us are feeling. Exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, from all the uncertainty, from all the pressure to make things work, to keep our businesses healthy, to keep our families well. Many of us are spending any waking hour thinking about the possible next steps, new ideas, better ways, especially when things are not working out as quickly as we would like to or as smoothly as we envisioned, when our markets are changing, when our supply chains are disrupted, even, in some cases when way, way, way beyond what is in our power to fix, to plan for, to strategize for. So as we keep on testing, adjusting, shifting, pivoting, and as we keep on hoping that something would finally stick, it really becomes exhausting. It takes mental, emotional, and physical stamina to endure all of that. Not to mention being in a state of consistent reaction. So what happens? If you are like most of us, you start looking elsewhere. What are others doing? What are they saying? What is market requiring? And then, what are we doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Why is this happening to me? Sounds familiar? Yeah, I know. I used to be there also, and so are my clients. The thing is that we start to rationalize things. We start walking back our dreams and desires and goals because, if we can't make this work, how could we possibly make that happen, right? So at this point, allow me to insert a beautiful sermon by Bishop T.D. Jakes. He was talking about the storm, that invisible storm that's raging within us. The storm that other people can't see because, we put on a smile, we put a brave face and the mask of strength, and we keep showing up, even when we feel overwhelmed and exhausted, even when our lives are falling apart, even when we lose our jobs, our businesses, our friends. As he talks about how oftentimes we began to doubt in God, universe, higher powers, however you choose to call it, and whoever you choose to turn to in such times of despair. We need to remember that God does not appeal to our senses. He will not make us feel comfortable. We get to choose whether or not we lose focus of our dreams, goals, destinations, and brave through those storms. We get to choose to stay and trust the process because every storm we go through is bringing us closer to our destination. And just because everything else seems to be falling apart doesn't mean that we have to. So we need to stop focusing on what is lost and start focusing instead of what is left. What do we have? What have we gained? Because what's left is exactly what we need to get to our next step, to our destination. And in the end, we cannot be saved by what it was or no longer is, but only what is here right now, as Bishop T.D. Jakes concludes. So this is where you and I right now get to do something unconventional. I would like to remind you that wherever you are right now, with whatever there is, you are already an incredible, limitless, unstoppable being. When you choose to, and when you choose to believe this about yourself, even more. You have an incredible, how do I say that? You have this incredible power within yourself to create the future of your own desires and to change your current reality. You already have this incredible amount of skill, knowledge, experience that you bring to the table. So I invite you, in case there's a shadow of a doubt coming up, I invite you to do something. Go grab a pen and piece of paper. If you need to pause this recording, go ahead. And if you want to come back after you listen through everything, you can do that as well. So on the piece of paper, I will invite you to start making a list on the left side and write down every single experience you have been through, all of the education that you've received, whether it's formal or informal, all the failures you've experienced, all the hardship you've overcame, all the victories you celebrated. Take your time, because I guarantee this is going to be one hell of a list. And keep in mind that nothing is too small to write down. Once you're done with this part, the next thing is to list all of the lessons that you have learned, all the skills that you have mastered, all the experiences that you picked up, all the insights that you're now richer for. Again, this is going to be a massive list, and I hope you can start to feel the expansiveness, the strength, the limitless self for who you already are. Now, if you want to take this a step further, and this is an exercise that I do with my clients when doubt starts to rise around their worthiness, and are they really worthy? Can they really create what they want to create, what they feel desired to create? And oftentimes it comes up when, we're discussing the pricing, whether it's their services or the products. There's always a shadow of a doubt that starts sneaking in. So this next step of the exercise is going to be challenging to some of you. It's going to be really liberating to some of you. I want you to take each of the lesson, each of those skills, each of the experiences, and assign a value next to it. Yes, dollar signs and all the zeros. How much is your knowledge worth? Perseverance, your gifts and skills of craftsmanship. For those of you who are parents, that in itself, the experience of birthing the kids, raising the kids, homeschooling them right now, while running your business, while running your household, while taking care of everybody around you, while taking care of yourself, how much could that possibly be worth? And if you choose priceless, priceless it is. Write it down. Tally it all up. I dare you then to multiply this by 100, and we're still coming short. Can you take it all in? Do you feel how badass you are? For real, I don't know you personally, but I know you're a badass. And I want you to really feel this in. And if you need to emotionally release this, let it out. Let out the sounds. Shake it off. Let the tears flow. That's right. Let the tears flow. You don't have to hold it all together. let it be. Again, if you need to take a moment to pause this, take your time, because when we're coming back, we are going to be harnessing this powerful experience as we take another look into your big vision, your goals, your desires. Because see, if you're like me, then you have this vision that goes way beyond what most people can see, what most people can understand and comprehend. Between you and I, that's why I am really choosy about who gets to be in my circles. Because I want the people who are around me to not only continuously inspire me, but to empower me to dream even bigger, to think even bigger, to become even more. And for those of them who have been down the path, I want them to reach down, extend their hand, and help me pull myself up just as much as I do that to the next person, for the next person who's walking this path behind me. That is the power. That is the gift that we get to receive and that we get to share. And because you are here right now, I guess that you are not doing this just for yourself either. You have others who depend on you in some way or another. And, if you remember from the first webinar, this is really the space where motivation and inspiration come in. This is where we get to turn inwards and we get to listen to the nudges of our heart and our soul. What lights us up? All those little things are the breadcrumbs that are leading us to what we're really meant to do, meant to create, meant to put out in a way that it's really meant to serve on a higher level. Whether it's through your gift of craft, gift of making, gift of serving, gift of speaking, gift of motivating, whatever it is. Can you feel this? Elevate and increase is next. So, tapping into your big vision, feeling into the details of it. What is it? I really invite you to envision the moment, and the moment in the future, actually, when you close your eyes and you realize, oh my goodness, everything I envisioned, everything I wished for, everything I asked for, it became a reality. Can you tap into the time and space in the future? How does it feel? Where are you? What's happening around you? I also want you to look inwards and see who you have become. Who are you at this point? This version of you, how are you thinking? How do you live? How do you speak? What are you available for? What are you no longer available for? What do you tolerate and no longer tolerate? This is something that you can journal on. You can meditate on it. For some of you, this will be clear immediately. Some of you will receive this in bits and pieces. And there might be some of you that see this as a total waste of time, your energy, and this is okay as well. Wherever you are right now, and whatever is available for you, and whatever you are available for, it is just perfect. It's what comes next is that it's up to you. And to understand that whatever is that you are available for, that is what you're going to be creating. And however you respond each time, it's what you get next. So when you look into the future and when you tap into this feeling, you get to understand that you are the one who creates all of that. You are the one who gets to choose how it all gets to look like and how it all gets to feel like. And the reason why I invite you into this experience of deliberate creation, intentional creation, is that, as we discussed in our first webinar, it's our feelings, emotions, vibrations that are 500 times more powerful than our thoughts. So this is how you help yourself to anchor this vision and start creating it. And that feeling that you're experiencing, this is your guiding point. You get to make choices based on where you want to be, based on where is that you're going, instead of where is that you're right now. Not the current circumstances, not where you're coming from. So next time when you sit down to make future plans, when you strategize, when you respond with testing, adjusting, shifting, and pivoting until something works, so just maybe instead of hoping and wishing, you can respond with conviction, confidence, clarity, and calmness. And know that this is where your creativity thrives. Naturally, this takes practice. And I am not here to tell you that it's like turning on the light switch, right, from today to tomorrow. What I will share with you, however, is that it can change everything. And I'm going to share with you a personal experience. See, my husband and I have been living in our home for almost a decade now. But it was about 3 years ago that I started to feel like we've outgrown the place. It was really this old feeling, because at the moment it's like, well, shouldn't I be grateful for it? It's all that I ever wanted. It's more than I ever wanted. But I couldn't quite point a finger into what was really bugging me, right? Now, at the time, I need to say that I was still recovering from postpartum depression and from severe burnout. I had to go to the ER twice. Once was not enough for me to change the way I was doing things. I needed 2 severe warnings to start paying attention. So at the time of this experience, I felt like, it really felt like living in a golden cage. On a paper, I had everything, but I felt caged. I felt restless. I felt, I felt like I didn't belong, to be honest with you. And I remember that the only thing that I could think of, and this tunnel vision that came out of it, was this belief that if only I were to make a boatload of money from my business, that would be my ticket way out. So I kept focusing on particular results, and those results were to become milestones in order to measure my worth against them. And the more I kept thinking about those numbers, the more I was caught in the feelings that, something was missing. I was not enough because I could never quite reach the milestones I had set for myself. And again, that kept me in the cycle. I'm not enough. What is wrong with me? What are others doing? I kept comparing myself to others, and I kept buying into the victimhood. I literally became a victim of circumstance. And because that's what I kept focusing on, that expanded. And that's what I kept receiving. So this tightness ultimately greatly affected me in multiple ways, not to mention the tension that began to build in my marriage. I felt disconnected from my business. Guilt was consuming me for believing I was letting down my daughters. And I began to resent everything. I became frustrated because no matter how hard I worked, nothing, in quotes, was working. It wasn't until I learned to elevate my own perspective, my own state of consciousness, and I started to feel into the vision, and I started to learn how to cultivate those feelings almost like on demand. I learned how to take radical responsibility for it all. And that included the courage and risks that came with it when I chose to take my daughters to Europe for 4 months, despite my husband's objections. Because I needed to heal, I needed to reconnect, I needed to slow down, and I needed to choose and trust my inner knowing over the external opinions, approvals, support, or either any data, because there was no data to support my hunches. I needed to trust, and I needed to do something different. Today, we still live in the same home. We have not moved, but everything changed. Today, with the pandemic raging around us, our home feels like sanctuary. I feel at peace. I feel calm. I feel energized. I feel inspired. I feel free. And I'm filled with gratitude because I get to have a much deeper and loving relationship with my husband. I get to have a much deeper connection with my daughters. And my business lights me up because I got to create it based on the desires, not the fears. I get to fully show up and I get to serve my clients daily. And the way that I built the business was on the vision that allows ample time and flexibility. And it's exactly what we need because with homeschooling, there's a lot of shoveling around and a lot of flexibility that needs to happen. But you know what? I'm not anxious. I don't feel uninspired. And even on those days that those hooks are still trying to pull me back, you know, I know how to draw back into the present moment while anchoring the vision. And my friend and I were actually just talking about it the other day. We were FaceTiming and we reminded each other that, hey, just look around. This is exactly what we asked for. Perhaps in a greater scheme of things, we could go without the pandemic part in the equation. But ultimately, the life that we get to enjoy right now is exactly what we asked for. And we got to realize that. So as you are elevating your perspective, I want you to understand the reason why I shared this story with you is because I had to learn how to do too. I had to learn how to feel it first. I had to learn how to believe it in order to see it. So I also know from my own personal experience and from the experience of working with clients that as we are envisioning and dreaming and thinking big, something else comes up. It's fears, it's the doubts, it's all those little voices. So, what do we do with all those little voices? Well, first and foremost, we take radical responsibility for each and every one of them. And then we identify and eliminate them. And here's how. One of the exercises that my clients and I do first when we start working together is to activate their big vision. I want to know what is that drives them. What are they wanting to create? What are they feel called to create? And when they share this with me, I have this amazing gift of feeling into their vision and feeling into all the possibilities and seeing beyond what they're able to see. And I got to tell you, about 98% of the time, I know immediately that they're holding back. They're playing it safe. They're trying to be rational and logical. And as we already established earlier, you can be rational and logical when you're changing lives, when you're changing your own life, when you're dreaming big, when you're creating the future of your own desires and design. So what I wanted to tell you here, and I want to go deeper into this experience, is that just as my clients, I would dare to say that many of you who are listening to this are putting your fears and doubts on your own path without even knowing. See, most people, especially right now, would be completely paralyzed in fear. They would have this myopic vision of what is possible based on past experiences, based on what others are doing. And they'd be wearing these blinders manufactured by stories from the collective. And because you are here right now, because you chose to be here, I know you're not like most people. You are resourceful. You are driven. You are accomplished, focused. You're a leader. And if you were my client, this would be the moment I would challenge you and I would invite you into following. I would ask you to be honest with yourself and tell me, how do you believe you will sabotage yourself in seeing this vision? And maybe it's a big vision, maybe it's just the next step. How will you sabotage in seeing it through? And let's be clear. It could be fear, because fear is a legitimate experience. In fact, a colleague of mine, her name is Katerina Satori, she breaks it down into 3 types, and I'm going to be paraphrasing her. First one comes from instincts. It's irrational wave of discomfort, as she says, that arises from your biological fear of survival. The next one is creative. This fear arises when you're getting close to expressing a level of creative work that is revealing your true genius. She continues that this is the fear that arises at, tapping into your full capacity and potential, the wild beauty of your raw originality. Sounds familiar? And then the third one, as she says, is a visionary one. This fear will show up right after you get a glimpse of your biggest vision. Touched by your inner muse, you're given a sight of what is truly possible for you, and the fact that, as you have seen so much, you're never going to be the same again. You cannot take this vision back. So this fear triggers a sort of a worry and self-doubt, making you wonder if you're truly fit for that level of assignment to make this vision into reality. So yes, even the most highly achieved, experienced makers, crafters, business owners, leaders, we're not immune to experiencing this. And let me give you another example. This business owner owns a brick and mortar shop, has several employees, regular customers. Now everyone needs to stay home. So they devised a clear plan to not only preserve their cash flow through innovative marketing and sales and service, but they also wanted to prepare their business for the resurgence of the economy once everything reopens, because they know people will be back in droves. So they also understood that the way they were doing things was really eating into their profit margins. So they are taking proactive steps in minimizing the future expenses while multiplying the income. It is a really simple and elegant way, actually, to do that. And yet, when we spoke, they were really honest that they were simply going through their motions. They were putting out the fires. They were sorting out their filing cabinets, running errands, all while they were clear on what they had to do. And then at the end of each day, they would judge themselves. They would say, I'm just wasting my time. I'm wasting my life away. I promise to do better tomorrow. Sounds familiar? See, the thing is that they were fully aware of those patterns. And they knew that they were keeping themselves busy with all the busy work that was not moving the needle. But the thing is that no amount of scheduling, no amount of productivity tools, accountability, or to-do checklists and scripts, or whatever is that they thought they needed, nothing would help. Because this person, without knowing, but they were internalizing the trauma they were exposed to as a child. For many years, they were told and proven to over and over again they were incompetent, lazy, that they were quitters. So that actually did fuel this immense desire to prove themselves, the hunger for external validation. And yes, they needed to prove their worth. They needed to prove approval of others, earn the approval of others, actually. And ultimately, it started to work against themselves, because they kept burning the fuel and working much harder than they would otherwise need to. And they were exhausting themselves. So as a result, they were being less productive. They were blocking their creativity. They were keeping themselves back and playing safe and doubting in every single decision that they had to make. Doing so ultimately was hurting their business, was hurting their employees, were hurting, it was hurting their clients. But yet it was simply feeding their story of how nothing they do is good enough, how they will never accomplish anything, and how they will never finish and see anything through. So yes, they would be working even harder, and it was just a costly and painful cycle. And yet it was familiar space for them. It was this zone of comfort, no matter how painful it was. This is where, the mindset comes in, and the quote that I created custom just for this presentation. If you want it all, be willing to receive it all, which means taking responsibility for everything and identifying and eliminating those limitations and self-sabotage that's included in this package. All the good experiences, all the good feelings, and all the good emotions that we envision when we tap into the big vision, they all have a flip side. They all have a shadow. They all have the dark side to it. So we have to be willing to dive into it, accept it, transform it in order to eradicate it. It is really that simple. And that, again, this is where the mindset takes place, in addition to strategies and tactics. So I want to invite you, in case you have not seen the first webinar, to take a look. And if you did see it, I invite you to go back and watch it again, because knowing this, you will see things differently, and you will receive it differently, you will hear it differently, and you might have a new level of awareness and perhaps new level of inspiration and motivation to start shifting things and taking back your power. Okay? So now that we're moving towards taking aligned action, here's what I need you to know when it comes to this part. We were talking extensively right now about the mindset and the energy in order to create this space of being right now that is aligned with the vision that you have and tapping into your, powerful self. So when you are in this space, it is much easier to take action that is in the alignment with your objective, goals, dreams, and vision. And yes, on our next webinar, there is one more coming. We will be diving deeper into the tangible, strategic, tactical side of the business. Today, I really wanted to show you how to build that emotional and energetic stamina, how to, build that muscle that you need in order to unleash your unlimited potential and make strategies work for you. So here are a couple of additional things I would like you to keep in mind as you go back to your day, as you go about putting your plans into action. First, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start with the first step. And no, it does not have to be perfect. In fact, nothing ever is perfect. And if you're waiting for perfection, it is a procrastination. And there's something much deeper behind this procrastination. So it does not have to be perfect. It simply starts with taking a first step. So also, instead of pressuring yourself to be at your peak performance at all times, right? 24/7, going, doing. And right now, many of us are expected to be at the peak for performance. If it's not for business, it's for our team, it's for our kids, it's for our spouses, it's for, a lot of other people. But here's what I would invite you to do. And I will quote my friend Diane Sykes, who is a quantum physiologist. She's teaching this 2-hour interval thing when you really alternate between the creative and the analytical focus. And you give yourself 2 hours of each. And then, and I have to say, I loved this when she was sharing this with me when I interviewed her. Interview is available on my website, by the way, if you want to dive deeper. But one thing she's saying, as we're going through things and we're doing things, victorious resting I'll say it again, victorious resting. We need to rest and might as well just rest, as we are the champions at resting, intentionally putting everything at ease, turning off our minds, turning off everything and resting while we rest. And by the way, Tony Robbins even says that if you can't afford to take 15 minutes to yourself, you don't even have a life. I'll just leave it at that. Next thing I'd like to keep in mind is that taking aligned action will not always feel good. It's just about getting started. And if you have ever heard of Mel Robbins and her 5-second rule, one of the shortcuts to just get started is to simply count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And you start with the next step, no matter how small, before the rational mind thinks over and before all the demons start voicing their own opinions and reasons as to why you should not or could not or cannot, right? And I'm telling you this as a former basketball player too. You know, aligned action, when you're looking at the big picture, sounds awesome. And then you have to show up at the gym. You have to show up for a 5:30 workout. You have to play through the pain, through the injuries, through the losses. Yes, it sucks sometimes. But when you are tapping into this big vision, you know that each and every one of those steps is simply bringing you closer, even when it's painful, even when it doesn't feel good. Like we said, aligned action will not always feel good. But when we know what we're working towards, when we're able to tap into our own creativity and we're able to put ourselves in a state of flow, everything will start to unfold. Last but not least, embodying and integration. This is the quote that actually sits in the office right behind me. And the previous one was actually, I forgot to mention, the 6 prisms that I teach on which we build the business life impact with my clients. And if you remember, it was about you, your family, your mindset, life, spirituality, and business. All of those components go together in taking this aligned action, in tapping into the big vision. So right now, we're here into the embodiment and integration part. And I am simply inviting you to remember that where you are today is exactly where you're supposed to be. What happens tomorrow is up to you. So with each step that you take, with each new level, you will get to repeat this over and over again. As they say, we experience our growth and evolution in cycles, and each level has a new devil. So, we all get to peel back the layers and dive deeper, pull out more hooks, release more of the weights that are holding us down, and tap into the big vision and embody it all at each new level. So, this is it for today. On our next webinar, as I already mentioned, we will focus on how to realign business strategies to a bigger vision and hold space for the long game, even if it feels counterintuitive. So next webinar will be much more tactical, much more strategic, much more technical. In the meantime, I do invite you again to join us at the Trade and Prosper community on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, feel free to tag me. I'll be happy to further support you. We'll also invite you to go back and watch the first series in case you haven't, the first webinar in this series in case you haven't. And if you want to learn more about my own work and who I am and why am I here to even share all of this with you, feel free to visit my website. Until then, here's to your success, expansion, and peace of mind.